So let's introduce what this is. This is going to be a little tutorial on how to super cred grind in 2025. Isn't that right, Ben?
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. So what we're doing is we're finding planets that are good to drive on. So desert planets, ones without trees, not ice planets as well, because ice planets are super annoying to drive on. Any more bits, Ben?
Open sight lines, so you don't want any large protrusions. If you can avoid the planet which has the exploding spike plants which insta-kill you in a car.
Yeah, that's true.
A bonus as well. Charon Prime is currently my prime candidate.
Okay, sure.
Just because it's quite easy to see secondary objectives, POIs, and also the Ion Storm isn't too disruptive if you already know where you're going.
Yeah, true. Alright, let's head on to the planet side. Why do we choose difficulty 2, Ben?
Difficulty 2 is for the secondary objective. I'm so glad you asked. Because every now and then, you get a LiDAR station, which really ramps up the rate at which you can get super credits.
So why can't you get LiDAR on mission trivial?
Because there are no secondary objectives, my dear friend.
There you go. I didn't know that, to be fair. I knew that you couldn't get LiDAR on difficulty 1, but I didn't know why. So that's very cool. Nice.
Yeah. So mission-wise, you want maps with a lot of landmass and very little water. This is decent enough, but you can always look through more. And if you really have to, you can ramp up the difficulty or go to a different planet.
Yeah, but you don't want to go too high with the difficulty because, by the way, yeah. So you don't want to go too high with the difficulty because then it will slow how quickly you can grind for credits. Because obviously then there's more enemies, they're going to do more damage and stuff, so the lower the difficulty the better, but just start on 2. This one is actually perfect because for some reason missions with the upload escape pod data as the primary objective a 100% chance have a LiDAR station on. So, and also we should explain as well, let's say you're completely new to the game, every mission that you do will have something called points of interest. These are areas where you can get anything from ammo, stims, requisition slips, medals, and then finally, sorry?
Support weapons.
Support weapons, yeah. Or super credits, which is obviously what we want. Now, there's only 3 types of POI, points of interest, that can have super credits, and that's crates, pods, which you'll see these little escape pods, or bunkers. Now you need 2 people for bunkers. So what I'd recommend, if you pull us back to the main map, Ben, if there's anyone above the level of say 40 on a level that's doing a level 2 difficulty, they're probably super cred grinding. So that's like, usually you want to do it with other people, because nothing for me personally will be more annoying than starting a mission and seeing that, you know, there's a bunker with 3 super credits in it. 3 super cred stacks, but I can't open it because I haven't got another player. So I'd always recommend doing it in people of 2 or more.
The main objectives.
Yes.
POIs don't really spawn around main objectives in a certain radius. So if you can get maps with 1 concentrated primary objective as opposed to many, like the ammo dumps.
Do you want to show us, Ben? See if you can find one.
Yeah. So this one here, that's good because the escape pod is quite small and the POI is going to range somewhat close to it. But if you have one like this one, I imagine the POI won't really go around the secondary objective there. By secondary objective, I mean the first scan.
Yeah.
And so this one has a lot less area for POIs to spawn.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing we'll say before we start getting into the mission setup is that it's better to go for automaton planets as opposed to bug planets, because for some reason, Ben, I mean, you told me this, Ben, to be fair, so you know better than I do, something about bug holes interfering with POI spawn locations.
That is very much hearsay, but also the automatons are just much easier to grind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can melee them to death.
Go ahead, take us into mission prep, and we can explain what we're choosing. So, in terms of spawn location, what we normally do is we spawn on the very edge of the map, do a circle, and then obviously you're covering all the POIs on the outside, and then going further in. But because this one's going to have escape pod, it's going to have a LiDAR, which means you can hit them all anyway. But if we talk about what kind of armor we need, so you definitely want to go for light armor, because obviously you get to run around, there's not much enemies really, and I would always pick Siege Ready or Reinforced Epaulets because you get the increased reload speed. You can pick whichever one you want really, but I always pick these just because they're the only ones that's going to be relevant. You can pick Scout, for example, but the markers you place on the radar don't always show the location of POIs, so it's one of those really where you may as well just pick something that's going to make you reload quicker for when it comes to destroying crates.
So it has sort of boiled down to me being the driver of our little squad, getting from point A to point B, dropping off John, who then goes and loots the POI. So my strategies, as long as I'm taking the car, that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm taking the 500 just because it's fun to throw it on like fabricators as you go. Like, again, completely optional really. Second one will be the laser cannon because it's the cleanest way of destroying crates. Because usually explosive canisters will spawn next to a crate. As a result, if you were to use like an explosive crossbow, that's a good point T's just put at the top. You can also get XP from fabs. But yeah, so if you destroy the crate, there'll be fire that destroy the explosive barrel, there'll be fire around the crate and requisition as well. So it's like it just takes it longer. If you want to really get to the point where it's very efficient, that's how you do it. Yeah, we don't care about them because we're quite high up. Third one is the jump pack. Again, that just makes it easy to navigate the map while you're primarily in the car. We also take 2 cars because cars often get blown up, and there's like, if I show you now actually what time it is, nearly 500-second cooldown. So it's just one of those really where if you lose one, it's incredibly annoying to have to wait a lot longer. So Toast has actually just put in the chat that if you hover over the minimap slowly, it'll let you ping miner emplacements even though you're thousands of meters away from them. But yeah, I didn't know that, to be fair.
Sometimes doesn't work.
Yeah, sometimes.
Every now and then, I believe.
Yeah. Booster wise, the only 2 you're going to really need, as long as you don't obviously pick an ice planet, stamina, because you want to be able to run longer because that's all you're doing really, and then UAV booster as Ben's got because effective radar range is good if you don't have a LiDAR station because it just means you can make sure you get as many POIs as you can. In terms of weapons, the only one I would say you recommend is the exploding crossbow. Reason for that is because if the car gets flipped over, you're going to want to use this to flip the car over, because if a car spends too long upside down, it will just automatically blow up. God knows why. So it's helpful to have that. Grenades, again, you can probably replicate that with a grenade, but I feel like the grenades do more damage and are less consistent, and you have less of them. So I usually just leave it on the stun, which is what I take on most of my missions. Again, sidearm. Oh, go on, sorry, Ben, you first.
I will add a little addendum that the explosive crossbow does more damage per explosive shot than the grenade pistol. The benefit of the exploding crossbow is obviously you get a lot more rounds for opening containers and flipping the car. But if you're just focusing on flipping the car, grenade pistol is fine.
There we go. That's perfect. Cool, so he's going to call everything down. Ben usually calls the vehicle down first, so I don't mind.
Would you like to talk about your seating choice?
Yeah. So I'd always recommend sitting in the back because that way you can press C to switch sides, and then whenever Ben wants to drop me off somewhere, I can rotate which side I'm in. But yeah, so that's why. So there's a very important part coming up here. So if you look on here, this POI is white and it's got a diamond in the middle. That means there's something left there that we need to pick up. Usually what it is, once you've explored, the crate area, it's just a sample. But if we pick up the sample and drop it, if this was still white, we'd see a sample here. So we'd know ourselves this has been fully explored. That really helps when you've got a LiDAR station. So it's optional, but I would recommend to do it. The only time you won't see anything is if it's gone grey and partially translucent, which means there's nothing left at that particular POI. But always just drop on there so that you know you've looted it. And also, this is a pod. We call them pods, but as you saw, crates, pods, and bunkers are the only 3 POI variants that are going to have super credits in.
Yeah, I think we might have specifically chosen a mission right on the edge of their night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is an optional thing as well, but destroy all forklifts, because if your car falls into them, it explodes, potentially destroys the car, and is just a general annoyance. Yeah. So, thank you. Oh, do you want to explain how you're drifting, Ben?
Yep, so basic controls with the car, WSD, as for normal. You can change gears manually. I find that a little bit more helpful on rougher planets, so if you just go into first gear, you can climb over rocks easier. Second gear is more for speeding, but I just leave it drive just to teach you. You also get spacebar for the handbrake, which is good for drifting, F, which is 1, and then if you press X, you can toggle your lights.
For some reason, the LiDAR antenna takes a billion years to upload, so get that on the terminal as quickly as you can. And that way you'll be able to grind through these missions relatively quickly.
This game is beautiful.
Oh yeah. That is very nice there. So yeah, just to explain LiDAR stations then, so what will happen is you need to move the antenna into this white area. If you press D, it will move it clockwise, and if you press A, it will move it counterclockwise. So that's how you can coordinate. Oh, sorry, on the valve this is here. So D moves it clockwise, and then A moves it counterclockwise. So yeah, get it in the green, it'll say it's right, and then just initiate the scan.
On some LiDARs, the valve can be quite far away from the terminal, so if you are playing a duo, it might be useful just to relay where the antenna should be positioned to your teammates so they can almost instantaneously go and turn it.
Yeah.
So if you just go 45 degrees clockwise, that would be enough for them to do it and save you some time. It's all about time saving.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So we've arrived here and there's nothing, no samples. Even though these are optional, I would still recommend getting them out and tagging them, or getting out to them and then tagging them with a common sample, just so that basically you can say, I've been there with the LiDAR. Because the amount of times me and Ben have done like this close to extracting and then been like, have we been there? And then we haven't, and we go there, it's like a bunker with 3 credits, so yeah. Oh, see?
One you didn't mark.
Exactly. Well, do you know what? This is one I prepared earlier. So, basically, because we didn't know that we'd been here, we've obviously like, wasted time. It's only a few seconds, but still, it's just worth noting. So always mark it. Yeah. It adds time, and that's ultimately what we don't want. What we want is the police warbond ASAP. And to do that, you need to
time.
Go on.
It adds time, and time is power.
Yeah. Time is power, and power is money. Therefore, time equals money. There you go.
Quick maths.
That it looks like it's so small, that crate. The crate looks really long when it's in the the thing.
I think it's pretty average sized.
Fair enough. Streaming Ben, tutorial Ben. Permanently on YouTube, Ben. Alright, come on, 1 super credit, that's all we ask. There we go.
Look, we can streamline this as much as possible, we're still idiots.
That is true, yeah. Right, so these ones, we all hate these ones because there's literally nothing that can spawn in them. So drive over them and ignore them. And this is one we haven't marked. This is where we found the super credits.
You're slipping, man.
I am.
You're slipping.
Do you know what? It's one of those, we're making this because we want you to be better than us. That's why.
Yeah.
Standing on the shoulders of giants. Yes. Right, so, and again, this is one of the worst ones. So, as you can see on the map, you know, we've got a lot of clear POIs, we've had a LiDAR station, and we've been dropping samples, so.
And why don't we complete primary objectives, John?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So, if you complete a primary objective, well, Ben, I mean, to be fair, you'll have to show them on your screen. But it's fine, you can explain it. Essentially, so when you press escape, you've got the option of return, abandoned mission with squad will come up here.
Yep.
if you don't complete a primary objective, so the ones in orange, you'll be able to leave and then immediately go back to the ship, get onto your next mission, and then start this process again. But if you complete a primary objective, you'll have to evacuate and that option won't be there. Otherwise, you can return to ship alone and then you have to re-invite your friend, which adds time. But Ben's going to show us now what happens if you extract. There we go. The entire world gets atomized and then we respawn back on the stratagem. On the stratagem? On the super destroyer.
On the stratagem.
Yeah. We are now being re-atomized on the stratagem.
Super Earth is safe.
We got beamed up, I guess.
Yeah. So then, and then that is essentially the whole process, and then you just repeat it over and over again. And you can usually get it. Is it around 400 an hour? Maybe 350 an hour, I think. I've never done the maths on it, but it feels right. So I could be wrong.
I think we have gone higher or lower than that. It is very random.
Yeah. Yeah, it's random, but yeah. I mean, we were only going to do one just to show you.